We all went through the 90s. We've come a long way since then. Our culture has definitely shifted in how we speak about bodies, how we speak about food. We have this hyper awareness of not wanting to pass on disordered eating to our kids. And yet we're living in this era of apps and wearable technologies and meal replacement and pharmaceuticals, and TikTok is the new news. There's so much information out there that it's really overwhelming. We are being inundated with this information, and if we're not careful, we tend to try to follow too much of it and we put ourselves in a bind. Hey, I'm Jess, host of the Fuel Your Awesome podcast. I overcame an eating disorder in my early 20s with a mix of faith and empowered eating. Now, I get to partner with food and fitness to create this energy level that can keep up with everything I value, like being a mama, a wife, and a champion for amazing humans like you. The best part, we are flipping the script on what aging healthy looks like, embracing grit, grace, and contagious confidence. Here, nutrition science meets mindset glow-ups to create a health approach that amplifies every area of your life. I have always believed health should be a launching pad, not a glass ceiling, and I'm here to help you make that shift too. This isn't a quick fix, my friend. It's your weekly recharge. Think audio coffee with an edge, served by me and my expert guests to challenge the status quo of health and empower you to fuel your awesome. Hello, my friend. Welcome to 2025. You've made it. I just want to take a minute and pause because 2024 was a wild year, and I don't know what it held for you, but I imagine it held some big things, some unexpected things, some things that probably want to roll over into 2025. But I think there is something so beautiful about the new year. We have this opportunity to just have a blank slate. We can come into 2025, and while 2024 set us up for this year, and there may have been things that happened that we didn't expect or we didn't like, here's the deal. It is a new year, and we have the ability to create this year to be the year we want it to be and take care of ourselves the way we want to take care of ourselves. There are new things on the horizon, and so I'm really glad you're here today because we are going to talk about just that. Welcome to the new era of eating well. Guys, I love New Year's. If you've been listening to this podcast, you know New Year's is one of my favorite times of year. And not so much because I'm a goal setter, but I'm more of a vision caster. And this was a shift that happened, I would say 8 years ago. I mean, prior to kids, I was like, here's my annual bucket list. And I wrote all the things down and I did all the things. And I just had a big shift after I had kids. And I don't know if it may have very well have been I was just tired. I was like, I can't do this anymore. Or maybe it was age, but there was this very clear shift where I moved away from specific goals leading the way and more of a vision for the year. This specifically shows up in our family in my favorite tradition. We have what we call the family meeting. So this year was our 3rd year in a row, but what we do is we sit down either on New Year's Eve or New Year's Day as a family, and we establish the tone we want to set for the upcoming year by establishing core Brown family values and visions. And so it's been really cool to do this because it leads to us setting goals. There are definitely goals that come out of this discussion, but as a whole, it's more of a to-be list. This is who we as the Browns are, and this is how we want to be going into the new year. So for 2024, our family values were faith forward, first things first, we live to give bigger, sharpen the saw, and fun. So those were the 5 core values that, again, led to us setting goals and putting certain things on the calendars and establishing certain routines. So for example, the first things first, this was actually proposed by one of my boys, and this is a core value, or I guess a characteristic that they teach at their school, where they teach them to be disciplined in doing the hard and necessary things first and then play. So they say first things first, we have to do our lesson and then we can go outside and play football. So we really tried to establish that at home this year in some of our rhythms and our routines. You boys can get your 30 minutes of screen time, but first you have to make sure your room is clean, things like that. And then faith forward was a whole thing. If you've been following along, you know last year was a big year for me. I left my full-time job to jump into serving y'all completely full-time and being mom and wife. And that took a lot of faith. So there were these visions that we set that really established the tone of the year. And what I love about this model is that when we apply this to our health, it creates this beautiful opportunity for us to establish a new era of eating. And again, not that we're ditching the goals, but we're really just establishing the tone. So as we go into today's episode, this is what I want to do for you. I want to lay that foundation for how 2025 is going to be this new era of eating for you. Whether you are just starting your health journey, if you've been on it for a while, if you're like me and you've gone through a roller coaster where, there's a season of disordered eating and then maybe a season of obsession and then a season of apathy. And you're like, when do I get off this roller coaster and just find a solid foundation and a solid place to land on how I care for myself? No matter where you are, my friend, this episode is for you. And I'm so glad you're here because you are going to walk away with 5 steps to get you started this year that do not involve the typical goal setting, but really establish an empowered mindset that will set you up for your healthiest year yet. I refuse to believe the older we get, the less healthy we get. Nope, not if you're here. Not if you're working with me and we are on this mission together. I believe every year we are on this earth is another blessing, and we are going to steward our health and our body well. And I am so glad you are here. Welcome to 2025. Okay, I think we just have to take a minute and establish that we are going into 2025 from a very different place than we ever have in history. Guys, the last couple years have brought so much into the health field that it's a wonder we're even, how are we not drowning on all this? So I want to take a minute to just lay out this modern health landscape that we're currently living in, because I think if we don't do that, we don't fully acknowledge just how challenging this really is. So first of all, we are going into 2025 as the first year that Ozempic and GLP-1s have really hit the market. I mean, they hit it hard last year. I read this statistic that a recent survey revealed approximately 1 in 8 US adults have taken GLP-1 drugs like Ozempic at some point, with around 6% of adults currently using a GLP-1 medication. This translates to roughly 15 million people in the US. Most users took this to manage a chronic condition like diabetes or heart disease, but 2 out of 5 were using it primarily for weight loss. And I've seen that. I mean, on my social media and my email, I get these questions a lot from folks where they're like, Jess, what do you think about these weight loss medications? But it's always asked with this bit of reservation because they're like, I don't want to be judged for this, but I'm curious. So the reality is we're going into this year with this new tool on the market and maybe a little unsure of how to navigate that. The other thing we can't ignore that's happening is the massive attention that has been, or the focus on food dyes and chemicals within our foods, especially with what are feeding our children. I'm really curious to see what's going to happen with the Make America Healthy Again movement. We're not going to dive so much into that today. I actually have a special guest interview coming this month that will dive into this in a bit more detail. But as for today, I just want to take a minute to acknowledge that these are really big deals, and it's a lot of information coming at us. And if you're like me and have a bit of an extreme mindset, that can feel really overwhelming because you're like, what am I supposed to do with this? Am I supposed to, grow a garden and get a cow in my backyard and chickens and never eat anything from the supermarket again? And then how do I manage my kids? Because they do go to school and I don't have control over everything they eat. And that can feel very overwhelming. And then with the weight loss medications on the market, there are more questions than answers. It's no wonder we feel completely discombobulated. We don't know what's up and down. So I think it's really easy to get overwhelmed. But at the heart of this, we have to remember why we started looking into this information in the first place. And it's because we care. We care about taking care of our health because it's such a precious resource to us and we want to make sure we get it right. I think we're at a really crucial time where we have to get grounded in who we are and how we want to take care of our body because, guys, the era of information is not going anywhere. It's going to continue and it's likely going to ramp up. And so we will do ourselves a huge favor by getting really secure in what we know to be solid health habits and routines and taking care of our body in a really powerful way. I think it's time we look beyond these quick fixes and temporary results, and we actually start addressing the root problems and the root causes. And this is where empowered eating comes in. Empowered eating is a method designed to help you reconnect to your body, honor your unique needs, and find the sustainable path to wellness according to you and what you value. This mindset shift is everything. And when we pair the mindset shift with nutrition science and biofeedback, it's incredibly powerful what can come afterwards. Like, I really think of this model like what I did with my family at New Year's, where we don't lead with the goals necessarily. We lead with the vision, and the goals follow. When we're setting up the empowered eating model, this is exactly what we're doing. We're leading with the vision, and the goals are following, so we can feel really empowered in the choices that we make. Okay, before we dive into how to build this into your 2025 vision, I want to talk about how to not build it in. So let's do a little detox here first. One of the things that I think has shifted is that diet culture has really redefined itself in this modern era. We all went through the 90s, most of us did, and we've come a long way since then. Our culture has definitely shifted in how we speak about bodies, how we speak about food. We have this hyper awareness of not wanting to pass on disordered eating, an obsession with being skinny to our kids. I think we can all agree on that. And yet we're living in this era of apps and wearable technologies and meal replacement and pharmaceuticals, and TikTok is the new news. There's so much information out there that it's really overwhelming. And what I'm finding is happening is that we are being inundated with this information, and if we're not careful, we tend to try to follow too much of it, and we put ourselves in a bind. So for example, I was actually at the gym this morning talking to a girlfriend of mine, and I couldn't help but notice in the last 6 months, she has just been crushing it. I mean, her strength, I don't know what percentage she's bumped up, but it's amazing. So I finally looked at her and said, "What are you doing? Like, 1, you look amazing. 2, you're moving amazing. Girl, keep it up." And she just kind of laughed and she goes, "Jess, you know what it was? I wasn't eating enough carbs." And I was like, "Really? How'd you figure this out?" And she was like, I know some of her background, so I know how she eats. She eats very intentionally. She does a lot of her own home gardening. So a lot of thought goes into how she eats and takes care of her body. But she said she just wasn't eating enough carbs because she had been so focused on giving herself like quality nutrition that she'd cut off so many carbs. And she goes, "I realized how many grams of carbohydrates I need and how far away I was from that, and thought, gosh, I'm gonna have to start like shoving potato chips in my mouth because I just can't get to these carbs." Eventually she figured it out, but when she restored that macronutrient balance to her body, she was able to really flourish in the workouts she was doing. But again, this was a product of so much information coming at her and her trying to do a really, really great job of stewarding that information and taking care of her body. But it just became too much that she ended up eliminating more food than she was adding in. I think this is a really common thread that many of us experience, is that we get all of that information from everything from our Whoop to TikTok, that sometimes we just don't know what we actually need to eat. And then when we layer that on top of some of the fear, or I don't even want to say misinformation, because here's the thing about nutrition. Like, every bit of nutrition information at some point is probably true, which is really scary, meaning that the information out there is at some point true, but it may not be applicable to you. So for example, I've talked about sodium before. There was this mass movement to remove sodium, do low sodium foods. We knew having too much sodium exacerbated blood pressure. But then what about those of us who don't have high blood pressure? We actually need more sodium, especially if we live in a space that's more humid, or we sweat more, or we work out, or perhaps we have a higher metabolism or a low thyroid. There are so many contributing factors that piece of information, while it's true, sodium exacerbates blood pressure, we have to really discern, is that applicable to us? So this is why the modern era is failing us. It's not just diet culture anymore. It's all the information taking a physical toll. It's physically draining us, and we're not knowing what to eat, which then impacts our overall metabolism. We start to get nutritional deficiencies, and there are poor long-term outcomes. There's also an emotional toll. It's exhausting. We don't know what information's right. You got to be careful what you say around anyone because you might say the wrong thing about red number 40 and then somebody else is going to shame you. I mean, I've been in those circles where some moms don't care about the red number 40 and then others do a lot. And I'm like, which one am I going to get? And are you going to think I'm a bad mom if I give my kids red number 40? There are a lot of opinions out there. And then probably the most concerning to me, not probably, the most concerning thing to me is the lack of personalization in the nutrition recommendations out there. You can get macros anywhere. You can get your macros on Google. Hey, AI can run your macros for you. But what we know about nutrition is that it is not a one-size-fits-all approach, and we cannot ignore the unique makeup of who you are, your goals, your values, what your body is saying about the food. We cannot ignore these things. All right, enter empowered eating. Now, if you're new here and this is your first time hearing about empowered eating, I'm so glad to introduce it to you. If you've been listening for a while now, stay tuned because I have some new updates in the empowered eating model and how we're actually leveraging modern science to take it to another level. At the heart of this show and all the work I do, I am operating under this empowered eating model where we seek to overlap biofeedback, which is how your body is responding to how you're taking care of it, nutrition science, which is really where my job comes in and helping you develop a nutrition strategy, and first and foremost, your values, your vision. And this is where you lead the way, not necessarily me. Okay, these three things all together, guys, at the heart of that and where they all overlap, that is empowered eating. So when people ask me like, what's your number one health or nutrition recommendation? I never have an answer because I cannot give someone a quality answer without looking at all the pieces of that empowered eating puzzle. So for example, like the nutrition science piece, that's what I'm trained in. That's what my master's degree in. That is what I continue to read on a daily basis. But that nutrition science cannot be filtered to you if I don't know what's important to you and where you want nutrition to fall in your priority list and health and also how your body responds to everything. We can do everything by the books, but if your body disagrees, girl, we are going to listen. So let's break these three pillars down just a little bit more. Let's start with biofeedback. This is probably the most interesting and most interactive and honestly where I start the most with folks. This is where we actually teach ourselves to tune in and listen to our body's cues. So oftentimes we just start with hunger and satiety. Let's just start to listen. When are we hungry? When are we not? What are the energy levels we feel after eating? So often people will message me. I actually got one this morning. This gal said, Jess, I got to tell you, I ate all this food last night. It was like, chips and popcorn and quite a bit of like prepackaged snacks. And she goes, I am so happy that I've overcome, labeling these as bad or things I can't have. But I got to tell you, I felt like crap. I woke up super bloated. And, I think this is great. I told her, I said, well, I'm sorry you feel terrible. But on the flip side, how great that you were able to listen to your body. When we have a little kid come to us and they're learning a new skill, if they get it wrong, we don't yell at them and tell them like, how could you do that? No, we just simply say like, hey, well, what'd you learn? And how could you do it different next time based on what you've learned? That's exactly what this woman was doing. She listened to her body. It's responded with, I feel terrible and I get bloated when you eat this way. And then therefore we were able to adjust her plan going ahead. So she was never in the space of, I can't have these foods. These foods are bad, which I still think is really starting to dominate our culture in a new way. She was able to just go, I feel terrible when I eat those foods, so I don't eat those foods often. Amazing. Now, here's where I'm really excited. We can now leverage modern science to take biofeedback to a new level. We can actually use the medical tools on the market to look at your nutrition status, look at your hormone balance, look at how your microbiome is responding to the foods you are eating. And this is something I just launched at the end of last year, but I'm really excited to bring it into 2025, where we can actually order a hair mineral tissue analysis test, where we test your hair to look at your micronutrient makeup. The cool thing about hair is that it grows in your internal nutrition environment. So it's actually capturing what's happening inside your tissue. And then as it grows out of your head, and it's exposed to air, it locks that picture in. So you get a really clear snapshot of your micronutrient status. This tool has been so powerful in helping my clients rebalance their minerals and feel amazing. I mean, I did it for myself and I was able to rebalance my hormones and normalize my period, which was huge. It had been off for a couple of years. I had a client who was struggling with insomnia, and she'd been struggling with insomnia for 2.5 to 3 years. And just by rebalancing her minerals, she was able to start falling asleep faster and staying asleep longer. Interestingly, she was taking magnesium. I know most of you, if you listen on to this, you take magnesium, but she was taking it, but because she didn't have enough vitamin E and sodium, she actually wasn't absorbing that magnesium. And so her body wasn't being optimized. So we upped her sodium naturally and then added some vitamin E, and all of a sudden she was absorbing that magnesium. She was actually able to reap the benefits. So cool. Some of the other tests we're running are food and allergy sensitivity testing, so we can look at how your immune system, so your IgE, and your IgG4 antibodies are responding to specific foods. This test has been incredibly validating, especially for those who maybe have reactions to food, but can't, have some bloating, some GI problems, but can't quite figure out which foods specifically are igniting this problem. So we can actually look at how the body responds to those specific foods and then play around with the diet from there. We're also doing PCR stool testing, which is really mapping out your microbiome and which bacteria are flourishing, which ones are not. And then lastly, we added in the Dutch test, which stands for Dried Urine Test for Comprehensive Hormones. This one is so fascinating because we're actually able to look at your hormone levels and your hormone metabolites so we can get a better picture of how your body is holding and processing hormones. Absolutely amazing. These tools that are available to us just give us a clearer picture of what's happening and how our body's trying to speak with us. Then what we do is we can overlap that with some nutrition science to really come up with an awesome plan that aligns with your values and how you want to take care of your health as you move around in the world. My favorite part about this model is that it creates this opportunity for discipline, not rigidity. There is a major difference, which we'll talk about in the upcoming episodes. It creates opportunity for discipline. Like when my body speaks to me and says, I like this and I don't like that, I have to listen, because if I ignore those or override them, I can't be the mom I want to be, right? I can't show up and be the dietitian I want to be for you. Like I have to listen to how my body is reacting to the things I am doing to care for it. On the flip side, when we look at like nutrition science, this information is so powerful and so important, and yet we have to look at it through the lens of our values. So here's an example. When I read the science on the best time of day for a woman to work out, it's generally not in the morning. In fact, a lot of the data shows that women doing high intensity interval training early in the morning is probably not ideal for their cortisol and their adrenal function. Guess when I work out? At 5:30 a.m. in the morning doing high intensity interval training. And here's why. Because when I look at that through the lens of my value system, that's when it works for me and my family. My other options would be to work out in the afternoon, which would then impact my family time. And some of the things we do, like family dinners or sports or social gatherings, I'm not willing to sacrifice that. The other option is to not work out as much, which that's not great for my mental health. So I have to look at all that, right? I have to look at the nutrition science with more than just the science and actually considering myself as a human and how I want this to fit into my life. When we overlap that values with the nutrition science piece, it creates this opportunity for flexibility. Doesn't that sound beautiful? Like you have the ability to be disciplined with the promises you made to yourself and taking quality care of yourself. And at the same time, you know when to be flexible to make it fit into your lifestyle and what's most important to you. It's an amazing place to be. So here's how we're going to get there. Here's how we are going into your new era of wellness. First of all, we're going to do a bit of a mindset shift. I really want the vision to lead the way for you this year. So instead of saying things like, I need to blank, whatever that is, like I need to get in better shape, I need to start running, I need to lose weight, I need to heal my relationship with food. I want you, instead of saying like, I need insert whatever you're dropping, I want you to replace it with, I am going to insert what you're going to gain. So for example, instead of saying, I need to lose weight, you would say, I am going to feel great. I want to feel great. Instead of saying, I need to stop obsessing about food, we would shift that to say, I want to have an empowered relationship with food. So see how we're starting to put the thing we're moving towards as our vision instead of really drawing focus to what we're trying to walk away from. Here's one more example that is not food related. Instead of saying, I want to get out of debt, we would say, I want to have more resources available to give to my family or to go on vacation or whatever it is. So again, we're dropping what we're walking away from and really bringing a highlight to what we are walking towards. This focuses on progress, not perfection, and really sets the tone for us establishing habits that reflect our values and the person we are growing into. I want to give you guys 5 steps to take away from today. You ready? This is where, if you have a pen and paper, grab it because we're going to fly through these. So step number 1, I want you to reflect on what health means to you this year. What might be some of those values you pull into your health mentality as you go into this year. Step number 2, we need to do some clean out. We need to set your environment up for success. So maybe it's a closet clean out. This is one of my favorite things to do with people. We need to clean out the old clothes. I know you might be holding on to them and you're like, well, if I could lose a little bit of weight, I'll fit into them. Sister, go put them in a box and put them somewhere else. If that time comes, you can pull them back out, but get them out of your immediate environment. Your kitchen, get in there. The foods that do not make you feel good, get rid of them. Let's not keep them in the kitchen. We must set our environment up for success. Step number 3, start listening to your biofeedback. Journal your hunger levels, journal your energy levels. Look at your mood and your food for just 1 week. Follow your poop report. Look at what your bowel movements are doing and your bloating patterns. I promise you, 1 week of paying attention to this is going to open so many doors that you didn't even know your body was saying to you. This is how we get the ball rolling. And then step number 4 is to make an intentional change, just one. Make one intentional change based on that biofeedback. Make that change until you nail it before you add another one. And sister, step number 5 is get someone in your corner. So often when clients start working with me, they kind of come in with a sense of embarrassment. And I just want to kill that right now. Nutrition is the one thing we are all expected to know, but we are never taught. And there is a reason I have a job. I think it's the same thing with taxes. My accountant says this to me all the time because I'll beat myself up for not knowing certain things or mismanaging money that came in. And she's like, Jess, there's a reason you hired me. There is a reason my job exists because this stuff is hard. And so the same goes with nutrition. This is something, how many hours of schooling did you get it? It's something most of us have very little education on outside of social media, which can be, that's enough information to be dangerous. Get someone in your corner that can support you. You being here listening to that podcast is that first step, and I'm so, so happy you're here. But after you move through these 5 steps, if you're looking to dive in deeper, I would love to help you with that. There are so many ripple effects of empowered eating: more energy, better relationships, food freedom, freedom from the food-related anxiety. It just frees up so much mental space and physical energy in your life that it's truly priceless. It really is. I believe health is the ultimate wealth, and I'm so excited to help you on this journey. Guys, we are going to be doing some awesome things this year with the podcast, so fuel your awesome. You might have noticed it says fuel your awesome instead of her, and that's because I am inviting my husband on the show periodically. I asked him if he would do once a month. We'll see if he does it. He's not a person that likes to do this sort of thing, but he's so wise. And honestly, he has helped me tremendously in I would say my pendulum swing in my brain, because I did go from such a disordered relationship with food, then almost to an apathetic relationship with food. He has been an integral part of bringing me back to that center and really feeling grounded, because he looks at food so logically. He's the epitome of discipline. This man, he really is the yin to my yang and the epitome of health. So I thought he'd be a great resource to pull on the show. Plus, I just love being around him, and I can't wait for you to hear him. So he'll be joining me about once a month. We're also going to be pulling in one interview a month and then tackling some of the more hot topics. I do think this is a really cool era to be a dietitian because so much is out there, and I want to talk it through with you guys here on the show. So all that to say, there will be a lot of resources coming to you through the Fuel Your Awesome show, and I know that's going to take you so far, but it will only take you so far. When you are ready to dive in and get personal with your intake and understand your biofeedback on that new level and utilize some of these new tools that we have, I would love to walk through that with you. We have just launched the Well Fueled Academy. Guys, this is a highly intimate coaching program where I will meet with every single one of you and we come up with a very customized plan, and then the accountability is built in through the process. It is something that I know will change your life. We've been doing it for the last 3 years here. We've just been doing it in a more organic setting. So I really formalized the process and put it together for you guys. I cannot wait for you guys to see it. And you will also note, because when you go look at this, when you go down to the show notes and you click on this link, you're going to go to a whole new website. So if you're new here, you're going to be like, oh, cool, this is great. If you've been following me for a while, you might go, whoa, Jess, this is not your Jess Brown RD website. Guys, it's still there. You can still find all you need to know about me over at jessbrownrd.com. But we now have a full practice website. It is called the Well Collective, and I'm so excited to bring this to you guys because it just increases tenfold the way we can support you and help you guys with your health journey. So I'm excited for you guys to see it. Take a peek at that. Let me know what you think. And hey, if you enjoyed this show, can you pause for a minute? Will you hit subscribe and leave me a review? Those reviews are like a virtual high five you give me, and it feels really good to know that some of the stuff I'm throwing out to the world is actually being heard by humans. And these download numbers are not just numbers, it's actually a human being on the other side. So I would love to hear your thoughts. Beginning next week, we will be back in the podcast zone every Monday, bringing you nutrition, biofeedback, and soul science for your empowered eating journey. Until then, my friend, have a beautiful day. Cheers and happy eating. I am so glad you stopped by. I know you're leaving today with so much insight, but let's make it actionable. Take a moment right now to choose one key takeaway and write it down. Putting it in writing is the first step to making it happen. And remember, it's small, consistent changes that spark the biggest health transformations. If you're ready to dive in deeper into empowered eating, check out the show notes for free resources and details on how to connect with me and the Empowered Eating team. If today's episode lit a spark, my friend, I'd be so grateful if you'd share the love. Leave a review and tag me on social media at JessBrownRD. By spreading the message, it helps us reach even more people who need empowered eating in their life. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you're always in the loop. Until next time, my friend, I hope you have a beautiful day. Cheers and happy eating.